From its beginning a half-century ago, the Black Student Union at Holy Cross has been an essential element of the college. The BSU has helped Holy Cross to grow, to change, and to live into its mission. Founded in a time of conflict and transformation, the organization has been a wellspring of strong Black leadership. It is a story about how to speak the truth, gather support, and develop an identity. Perhaps most of all, it is a story about the value, indeed the necessity, of community. The history of the BSU, then, is a history of 50 years of progress. From the very beginning, the BSU has been a force for love and justice, the very values that lie at the heart of the Holy Cross mission.
Thank you, and I hope everyone is enjoying this big old party that we're having here. It's good to see so many alumni.
Learning to live in an environment with people from all over the country of different means and being different from most is a good experience for life, because if you're going to go out in this world and you're going to live in the world, you're going to be different. You're going to live with good people, bad people, mean people, ugly people, all kinds of people. I found all of those people at Holy Cross.
I didn't know that much about Holy Cross. As a matter of fact, I was calling Worcester.
My first impression, I came up the day after my prom, my senior year of high school, and it was freezing cold. I had never came to New England before, so the first thing off the plane, I had to buy a jacket.
My first impression of Holy Cross: newness, excitement, nervousness. I'm going to attack it.
And it had to be probably sometime around December. And I get in this plane, and it's going around Worcester, and it's trying to land, and it swoops down a couple times, and I'm like, and the wind is taking it, and I'm like, what in the heck? And finally I get a chance to get to Holy Cross, and they take me around the campus, and I see the library, and they take me to this old building, and I said, where are the Black people at?
I was looking for a very diversified college coming here. I didn't need it to be primarily Black. I wanted it to be an experience of diversity like the one that I experienced in high school.
I'd never visited Holy Cross, never set foot on campus, had no idea what it looked like.
My first impression of Holy Cross was, this place is too cold.
Holy Cross was one of those divine things that happened because I picked Holy Cross out of a hat.
I think my first moments on campus, I was shocked, but coming on my first day of classes, I was like, whoa.
So my sophomore year, I came back to school, and 3 gentlemen, African-American students, came on campus: Malcolm Joseph, Stanley Waite, and Jimmy Millard. And at that time, it was shared to me that Holy Cross had a policy that they could only handle 2 Black students a year. That was the maximum. This year they brought in 3. And at that point, there was about 13 Black students on campus.
I swear I met every Black person on this college that day. So I left believing that this was a very diversified college.
When I got there, I left my parents unloading the car. I ran to the dorm, pushed the button for the elevator, and the elevator opened, and it was full of Black women. All shapes, colors, and sizes. It was amazing for me. I had an opportunity to live on what they call the Black quarter. We certainly didn't have enough Black women to even fill a quarter.
And so my first impression was, will there be an adjustment? necessary for me to feel at home.
I definitely learned that Holy Cross, all black people are not the same.
"20 years ago, I don't suppose I could, in my wildest imagination, envision myself standing here this morning welcoming back a good proportion, a good number of the more than 5,000 women graduates of the College of the Holy Cross. It just would have been long, long beyond my imagination. I could not have done it. And yet it's been 20 wonderful years. I've said many, many times to alumni groups, it's been oft-quoted, that I think the single best decision made at Holy Cross, apart from the founding of the institution, was the transition to coeducation. And 20 years later, I support that position vigorously.
What else do I do for fun? My life is pretty boring, honestly.
My weekend looks like going to parties, hanging out with friends, obviously studying, even though I don't always want to do that.
I learned some things about my social life. You know, we would get together on a Friday night. I was one of the few that had a car.
Oh! What's your favorite color, baby?
Let me tell you a few things about the BSU parties, or maybe not.
They were always the thing that everyone on campus wanted to be at. Those parties brought us all together, let us let our hair down, show some of our creative aspects of what we were and who we were as individuals.
BSU parties were phenomenal, legendary, but it was the one time that we all came together under one roof to just sort of exhale.
I think that once brothers and sisters understood their niche, understood where they were, understood that Holy Cross was their home, then the BSU parties became our own, and we just rocked it.
It's sort of, just like a fellowship that we had, a communal fellowship that I thought was necessary for us to sort of help us get through those 4 years.
BSU parties brings me right back to a place that I could hear certain songs now, and I could do those same dances and continue to drop it like it's hot.
I arrived on campus, fall 1966, and I saw no one look like me as a freshman. 660 freshmen, no one looked like me.
And so my first experience at Holy Cross was very unique. I had never been around, in a very intimate way, lots of people, and especially people not of color. So it was an environment that was different, foreign to me, but not in a negative way, just different.
I think I kind of enjoyed that nervousness of like, oh, there's a lot of people and they don't look like me. It kind of made me excited to want to learn more and to get more involved.
As an African American student, it was interesting to go into a class and for the first time in my life be the only black person. I mean, I really felt a sense of isolation, and you almost felt in the beginning a sense of less than. Not knowing where you fit in, not knowing if you question your intellect, you question your worth, you question even if you even really belonged.
The typical education, the book education, was as expected, challenging, but an education in life was also learned at the Cross.
So how would I describe those years at Holy Cross? Lonely. Honestly speaking, lonely. We made friends and there was a lot of camaraderie going on here, but honestly speaking, when the weekends came, me and Tim Porter were here on the campus alone while everybody else went out. But during that period of time, Holy Cross educated me. Whatever it was, they whipped it together, so it's bittersweet. It was more bitter then, but in subsequent years, particularly for my children, oh, I love you.
Got along with all the students. I was likable. I was one of the guys. Heard no adversity comments about who I was. They just thought I was, you know, on campus to get an education.
So moving to the US from Jamaica presented a lot of problems for me, a lot of changes culturally. Food was tough, the weather was tough, the way in which people interacted with each other was very different.
As the year progressed, it was clear that when they had mixers, there would never be anybody, again, for me or for Bob. I never forget one time we even danced with each other. It was that simple. We would go to, you know, we'd go, there was nobody there.
Dating,
The dating scene at Holy Cross. That's funny.
Well, you know, the dating scene. You know, this probably is the area where I didn't have any problems transitioning.
Your options were limited. If you were looking for someone that looked like you, but luckily, you know, for most of us, we came to college to experience something new.
At a place like Holy Cross, where the academics are so challenging, athletics took a large chunk of my life. I would say the majority of time that I was here at Holy Cross. And then this guy took a lot of my life once he came in too.
Holy Cross helped me in a lot of ways because it was right for me. Some students struggled because it was something like they had never experienced before. And it's hard to be an adult and have to go through those kinds of experiences. It helped me grow. It sort of toughened me up a little more, going after Jesuits who were messing with me in class and, you know, fighting for my grades. There were so few of us. We were invisible to many. And in fact, if you didn't go to the dining hall back then, you may not have even seen any people of color.
When we got there, they had a special table set up for us to eat, the best food. And the people would always say, man, I wish I was with the football team. They had steak almost every other night. And they were bringing in a wait staff that was going to be our waiters for the entire school. And so we got there about a week before all the classes. And so we got a chance to meet some of the wait staff. Interestingly enough, there were two people that were on that wait staff. One was by the name of Gil Hardy, who I became good friends with, a brother from Philly, a valedictorian from his school, a brilliant brother, could speak Latin and Greek. And then there was another person on the wait staff. He wore fatigues, he had his hair was always kinky. He was from Savannah, Georgia. He was kind of an understated person because of the way he looked. But when he opened his mouth, he had such a roar of a laugh, a belly laugh, something that goes deep, that you wonder, who is that guy?
Welcoming our most distinguished alumnus, Mr. Justice Clarence Thomas.
When I arrived here in the fall of 1968 as a transfer student from Immaculate Conception Seminary, I was confused and intimidated. Of course, many of my fellow students were also confused and intimidated.
There were a lot of conflicts, you know, we had a lot of conflict. We had lots of debates in the dorms in Hanselman and in Healy about what the experience of a black person was at Holy Cross's campus. You know, we heard from people, alum who lived in the 70s and the 80s. And one thing that was clear was that the way in which, I would say, Caribbean and African students, in our understanding, viewed Holy Cross was a lot different from how African Americans viewed Holy Cross, the ones who lived in America. My time here, I spent more time at Holy Cross. I recognized that one of the differences is the experiences we brought were extremely different. And we had plenty of debates about what it meant to integrate into a community that some people felt was hostile to them being here on campus.
When you're around somebody in a sport and you share a locker room and an idea about preparing to win, a lot of the stereotypical things that you might normally be exposed to aren't there because you are teammates. But being a walk-on, I got to play, but I also got to experience different things. So living at Holy Cross my first year and 2 years was great because I had the protective nature of the Black Corridor at Healy.
There was a lot that I didn't know when I got to Holy Cross, and so I had to quickly learn it. I had the wonderful, wonderful blessing of depending upon a group of students that were there to help me and guide me. And I met those students through the BSU. So the Black Student Union, its role on the campus, my perception, it was our safe place. It was our place to go when things were challenging. It was an entity among us that we knew those students that were in the BSU, I could call up, I could go to, I could stress or vent about what my classes were like, what a professor said that I thought challenged who I was as a female, who I was as a Black female, and more importantly, a Southern Black lesbian female coming to Holy Cross. I had that sounding board of students that I could talk to who I felt related to me, who understood where I was coming from.
That spring, Father Brooks called all the Black students together on campus, and we met at Greta O'Neill's house. And we talked about how we were going to try and get more Black students and what could happen and would it be feasible and whatever could be done. During that first couple of months, Ted Wells and I set up meetings with Father Swords and Father Brooks. And at that point, we negotiated what was called the BSU wagon. We had a car, we had different amenities, we had a bank account. We did different things that we knew the students were going to need on campus. The good news for the incoming freshmen that year, they had access to femininity, to some social life, which I did not have. But it was all right because at that point, I was just happy to have them on campus. The junior year was an eventful year. We had a couple Black Muslims on campus. I mean, it was a whole different ball game. And you could tell that the campus was realizing now where all these niggas come from. And the brothers, we were wearing the dashikis and the afros and the whole bit.
When we decided to go to Healy, and this was one of the first major decisions that we came together as an organization, because remember, we were all talking about coming together as an organization. Art Martin and Ted were formulating how we could become an organization of Black people.
So I became the RA on Healy 4. You got Teddy X and you got Ed Jenkins. You got Stan Grayson, and believe it or not, several white guys came on the corridor too. So it was a good thing. So the Black Corridor came in effect at the beginning of my senior year.
So coming to Holy Cross, and my first experience was the Black Corridor at Healy. You know, it was a corridor of rooms. We had red, black, and green walls. We sat out in the hallways and either played music, talked about things that were going on, but it was a community, it was a family. And that helped me to normalize myself there.
And we had the opportunity that when we came to the BSU, we were like, it was a breath of fresh air. And I could share what our goals were, our dreams, our passions were, our pain. The BSU was the place where it just galvanized all of us together as a community. And I think that once you have enough of us in community, it became a place where we can really grow and learn and develop as young people becoming who God has called us to be.
Please welcome Valerie Curtis-Newton.
Good morning. Where I go to church, when somebody talks, you have to talk back. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. And then I went to class the first week. And I had a professor who offered to give me private assistance prior to handing out the syllabus. There was this underlying preconception that I was inadequately prepared to handle the academic life of Holy Cross. And I had a dean of the college make reference to the fact that he didn't know much about me because I wasn't on financial aid, which was an unusual thing for a student of color at that time. And I took all that frustration and that hurt and that anger, and I went to Healy Hall to rest in the arms of my African American brothers, and was promptly told that if I were not here, there would be another spot for a black man to come to school and be able to get a job to feed a family. And so I was caught between the rock and the hard place of being both African American and being a woman. Which is not to say that the sense of being under siege was all there was to our experience. In order to survive here, it's important to find your place, to find your niche.
Now, consider a campus of 2,600 students. Some of these students had never interacted with black people, and they didn't know what to expect. By the same token, the black students coming to the campus never really interacted with white students in a social way. So right away, you were going to have some immediate friction. I recognized, and I think Father Brooks recognized, that if these students were to come on campus, there would have to be some comfort level. This was a new experience for Holy Cross, and I dare say it was a new experience for a lot of the students. But we also knew we needed a black student union so the students would at least feel a little comfortable. There would be some commonality, there'd be some shared experiences, and that we, in fact, would try and take care of each other. Because we knew that if we didn't somehow bond and help each other, that those students who came to Holy Cross in 1968, they weren't going to be there long. In 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. I was in a senior dorm. It was my lady at the time. I was studying. Guy comes into the room and said, Martin Luther King was killed. Martin Luther King was assassinated. I packed up my books. I went to Orion Douglas, who was the senior. I said, Orion? He said, all right, it's true. He said he was killed.
I was messed up that night. It shook me. The first public speech I ever gave in my life was in Hogan, the day after the assassination. I don't even remember what the hell I said, but the school sent me down as its representative to go to the funeral. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
I started at that point basically exhibiting some more concern about social ills, more among African Americans and what was going on than anything else. As a result of King's assassination, Father Brooks and some other people went to different cities, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and made a concerted effort to have minority students come to Holy Cross in the fall. My senior year, the fall, I guess, of '69, we come back to school. More black students are coming in at that point, maybe another 30 or 40. So now Holy Cross is loaded. And it was a good thing. At that point, I'm on my way to law school. I'm engaged to be married. So my role was to just kind of back on out of the Black Student Union. Ted Wells became the president of the Black Student Union. Back then, and people have to understand, Vietnam was going on at this time too.
The war in Vietnam has literally become a fight on two fronts.
My senior year at Holy Cross, the war in Vietnam was at its height. The Tet Offensive took place that year. Dr. King was assassinated. Other cities rioted. I mean, I had tanks in my neighborhood.
I guess at one end of the student body you had the ROTC,
On the other side, you had a small group of students in the SDS who were actively against the war. I was more concerned, like most of the black students really, with some of the racial issues that were confronting us at Holy Cross and the American educational system.
People were fighting for our dignity and our civil rights. This did not escape us at any point, on any day, at any moment. It was blowing my mind that there was another war going on, another fight going on, international, that was similar to ours. And so these were the kinds of things that we got exposed to at Holy Cross, that widened your mind about the war that you actually were fighting here. That this is an international war of dignity and civil rights. It's just not here limited at Holy Cross.
It came a time the General Electric was coming on campus. Now, people say, well, General Electric, what is that? General Electric was responsible, and if I remember correctly, it had something to do with napalm. And napalm was used in Vietnam. And napalm, everybody knew back then, was killing people and was detrimental. And the SDS was going to demonstrate. They were going to demonstrate against General Electric coming on campus. And they came to the Black Student Union and asked us would we participate. And at the time, we said no. But what we did say to some of the members, if you want to do it on your own, you could do it as an individual, but not as a member of the Black Student Union. We were not basically blessing it. We were not giving our, imprimatur to it.
Now, what did you think of the open campus policy, where the outside military recruiters and companies were allowed to come in and recruit on campus?
I would have been supportive of that, I think. I think there was an opportunity for people to serve in the country if they wanted to. No one's being forced into it. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean I agreed with all the policies of the military, the policies of the government.
So sure enough, and this is December of 1969, General Electric came on campus. Black students, 5, 6, 7, 8 black students participated. And as a result, they were expelled. And not only were they expelled, many white students were expelled because the word from campus was, you're not to demonstrate on campus. And if you demonstrate on campus, there will be ramifications.
The December events that came about with the BSU walkout and the surrounding the GE demonstration, what were your thoughts on that as you watched that occur?
Because of the high visibility of the African American student, several of them were singled out as being perpetrators of it. There were also numerous white students there who were not in any way charged with a crime. So the black students' concern was a legitimate concern.
And I was the spokesperson. I was the lawyer. That was my first legal case. So initially we asked for the black students to have amnesty. We said, okay, there's no question they were there, but they should have amnesty because the charging decision could not be explained except some underlying racism. That was turned down. We had a trial. I argued before the judicial board again for amnesty. They turned it down. My recollection is everybody was found guilty and they suspended them. It wasn't probation. You had to leave school.
So right away, we knew that was an issue. It had moved from you shouldn't have done it to now, that's wrong. That shouldn't be the case. Now we come back to the dorm, come back to the cart, and now everybody's there now, because now everybody's heard about the black students. And of course, the black students who were, terminated were agitating, what are we gonna do, what are you gonna do? So we were sitting around and people said, well, what are we gonna do? We're gonna take over this building, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we'll do this. I'll never forget, Bob Deshay said, we need to leave. We need to go. We just need to leave. If they go, we all go. So it was like, what are we talking about here? No, we need to walk out. We need to go. If they take them out, we all go. So at that point in time, that was the vote.
I knew from that moment that Holy Cross was a school with a mission to teach its students to think about issues of social justice and how we could use our education to help others and to improve the world. But as much as the black students loved the education we were getting at Holy Cross, we nonetheless would have the courage and conviction to walk out, to quit school as a group, and leave Holy Cross in December of 1969 to protest what we perceived as an unjust decision by the college. The night the members of the BSU decided to withdraw from Holy Cross in protest was one of the most difficult nights of our lives. Every one of us who quit was on some type of scholarship. Every one of us. I cannot adequately explain the level of fear we had about the wisdom of our decision to leave a college we loved and the uncertain future we faced. As we packed our bags that night on the corridor in Healy, not knowing if we would ever return to the school we loved.
We had a press conference that morning. Campus Center Hogan was packed. We got up there, we stood up there, we gave a little speech, threw our ID cards on the stage, walked out. Walked right down Linden Lane.
We were all caught up in that this is it. This is the time that the challenge in our life was upon us. And it was a heaviness that I'd never seen anyone have up until that point in my life. And I said to Stan, I was standing next to Stan, I said, Stan, where we gonna go? He said, I haven't the slightest idea.
The words of Frederick Douglass. What is the future? What should you be doing? What should the African American be doing in the future? And he thought for a minute and said, agitate, agitate, agitate. That's what I talk to the black students. Agitate.
So now, the events of the weekend, it seems like they were just incredibly tense and...
They were very tense. I was really pretty much locked into Loyola Hall during the discussion because Father Seward put together a committee of faculty and administrators. So we would meet all day long and into the evening.
We had a meeting at Clark University, and it was a very intense meeting because some students at that point just wanted to go back to school. They just wanted to call the strike off. They just did not want to go back. And I mean, it got really intense, anger, frustration, the whole bit. Because we're talking about kids that had scholarships. We're talking about people that couldn't go home. We're talking about parents who wouldn't understand. Now you had this great opportunity, and you're flushing it down the toilet?
Throughout the debate, which was, I wouldn't say it was heated, but it was intense. People had strong feelings on both sides. Father Swords remained very, very quiet. He attended all the sessions, listened very attentively. It was about like 4:45 or 5 in the evening. He finally made up his mind. It was one of the first and maybe the only time he spoke throughout the deliberations.
So sure enough, that Sunday afternoon, we got word from Father Brooks that The students would be permitted, all the students would be permitted back on campus. All the students were coming back, black and white. And the Father Sword said relented and granted amnesty to everybody. From that point on, I think the stock of the Black Student Union rose. I think we gained respect. And at the end of the day, as they say, it was right and just to bring these students back.
How you guys doing? Yeah, I just want to say, when we first, Fred and I and the people down there and the rest of the black community, we decided we've had it up to here. You know, because it's not worth it. We're black first before we're Holy Cross grads, if that's what it meant. And I think I've heard historically, I'll say specifically Father Brooks, just like he said, throughout his time here, has been an impact. But as it is, he's getting older and he's not around. No, let's be frank. Let's be frank and candid. We as students can make things happen. We don't need to wait no more.
The experience you have at Holy Cross as a minority is very much like the experience you have out in the professional workforce as a minority. I think that Holy Cross did what they had to do. They didn't do what they needed to do, but they did what they had to do. Unless the BSU, the black alumni, and others make it an issue, it will be forgotten. So we need to stay active. We need to stay engaged.
Understanding the way that the country is going politically, some of the issues that are at stake, now more than ever, the BSU is such a necessity for African Americans to have a place to go and have a voice.
So when things go down, and they will go down, we have people that we can lean on to support us in those instances. I think that we don't have to like everybody, but we need to love everybody.
What we experience and some of the bricks that we laid are going to be the bricks that you will drive on. And so we're not saying that this is the only way, but certainly this is a proven way that you need to understand how we laid those bricks. We're looking for you to create new pathways that your generations behind you will drive on.
Despite the election of President Barack Obama and many other positive developments, we do not live in a post-racial world. Race is still an issue. Racism still exists. We must put our struggle in historical context, and that we must remain hopeful and optimistic while we continue to fight for social justice.
But we all have to be there and we all have to participate.
So when I speak about the experiences of what this 50 years means, it's a lot more than just a day. It's a lot more than just this celebration. And today, if you look back on every one of our lives and all these things, you cannot imagine the things that we are now doing and how many people we affect. I am so internally grateful for Father Brooks.
Don't waste my money. Graduate in 4 years. Have fun.
And remember, in the end, you got to end up surviving because you got to pay my Social Security.
The BSU at Holy Cross meant family, honor, legacy, tradition, foundation, building blocks, and open doors.
BSU means to me, in one word, fellowship. I would add to that maybe fellowship for life.
Holy Cross Black Student Union meant to me, not in a word, but in an action, It was my safe place. It was where I rested.
As far as the legacy of the Black Student Union at Holy Cross, I would like to see that spirit continue. The whole purpose of the Black Student Union was for us to take care of each other, to cover each other, to protect each other. My hope is that for the next 50 years, that the Black Student Union takes on this issue. My hope is that, the students graduating, the Black students graduating from Holy Cross, don't forget that they have to help bring other people along. I hope that the Black students at Holy Cross form friendships that will endear them for the rest of their lives. That's a beautiful thing, to have a friendship. As you go through life, you still have these people you can count on and depend on. And the hope is that students recognize that friendships such as these are invaluable, and that the Black Student Union will give them an opportunity to bring about those relationships and to help bring about a next generation of strong Black leadership in a community, which is necessary right now.